But man, everybody and their brother is talking about The Rock. It was an interesting week, I guess. I think it was Friday morning when The Rock posted a 21-minute promo. At first, I only saw like a 6-minute clip. So I thought it was a 6-minute clip, and then it kind of got cut off at the end. And I wondered, hey, what was cut off? So I found the full thing. I think this was filmed outside of his house. You can see like his makeshift gym there in Hawaii. But it's all tinted there. And I guess that's his Iron Paradise or whatever he calls it. But man, he was in full blown classic Rock mode. And if the legend is true, back in the day, Rock was always under the impression, hey, you can't go too long. It's live. So occasionally maybe he'd go long on TV, and occasionally maybe that would create some chaos backstage.
Occasionally.
But the great thing on social media is, well, you can take as much time as you want. I don't remember seeing a 21-minute promo before on social media, but he's The Rock and he made it happen. And maybe, it could have been tightened up a little bit if it was for TV. But my takeaway was, this is getting good. What'd you think?
So many things. I was thinking so many different things almost all at the same time. I actually watched the promo back again. So I spent 42 minutes and change looking at that promo. And first of all, it was so much different than anything else we've seen.
Yes.
Which, you know how I feel about that. That's how you break new ground. You try things that are typically not done. Sometimes they're radical, sometimes not so much. But for Rock, especially given the magnitude of his stardom, to use social media in a way to really advance the story, but do it so much differently than he's either able to do on television or willing to do on television. I just, the language that he used, it was a little, it had no problem swearing social media. I don't know how I feel about that exactly, but it did reinforce the fact that this is different than.
Yes.
This is a side of Rock you're not going to see when you tune into Fox, right? This is a side of Rock that feels more personal, therefore creating some emotion, right? So whether I like it or dislike it really doesn't matter. It was effective. The way they used the Dave LaGreca stuff.
Yes.
That was different than.
Yes.
So different. And by the way, hats off to Dave and Bullion Company. That was a huge shout out for them and really good for the business. But the way that was utilized and kind of brought into the story, it was part of the larger context of that 21-minute, where Rock is out there addressing the naysayers and using it to his advantage. That's some Rock jujitsu going on there. Promo jujitsu. I love that. You're using the audience and their reaction to you, and you're bringing them into the story, acknowledging them, and then turning it around on them like a good heel should. It was so good. And it told such an amazing story, and it made me far more interested than I was already. And I was already interested. This is really, we could probably spend 2 hours talking about this and everything else that's gone on up until this point. But I'll just give you my take on it, since you didn't ask. Well, you did, kind of. That's what started this. Okay, I'm sorry. So I still believe that Rock came in with a plan, crowd reacted to that plan. That created the necessity to kind of, all right, here's where we're at. Let's make some sense out of this. Let's make the most sense out of this. Let's make it better than it already was, if we can. And the way they used all the clips from everything that's happened, backstage stuff at the press conference and all that, and then told us what some of that communication was between the two when we couldn't actually hear the dialogue. They're creating a cohesive story based on something that was unplanned.
Yes.
I find that process and the thinking behind it so interesting because that's how I watch this stuff. I don't watch it to see who
wins the
has a
matches.
4-star match and does it. That's not my deal. My deal is how are they presenting the product? How are they presenting the story? How are they engaging the audience and is it working? And obviously we saw what happened Friday night after this video hit social media. It was like a continuation in a way. There was some great continuity there. It was just so good. We'll talk about SmackDown, I'm sure, but as far as that promo goes, I think that broke new ground. The last time I looked, it was last night when I looked at it, it had like 3.8 million views, which by the way is probably double what they'd get on Raw and another 40% more than they'd get on SmackDown.
It's way more than that when you can figure or you count all of the aggregate stuff too. You know, like you saw just that one feed, but by the time everybody else has copied and posted it, I mean, it could be 15, 20 million by now.
It's just such a fascinating evolution, just another little step into the future, right? And I brought up before, one of the reasons that I became a fan of Becky Lynch back in 2019, before I even, went to work for WWE for that brief stint, I became a fan of Becky Lynch, not because I discovered her on television, but because I discovered her on social media. And she stood out to me because to me, she was like, wow, this young lady is actually using social media to shape and advance her character as opposed to, what most people use social media for. She's using it like it's a tool for her character, for her story. And as I'm following her, I thought, okay, well, this is really getting interesting. I got to go. I made an appointment with myself to go check her out on television because I wanted to see what this character was all about. And that's when I really connected with her. My point in saying all this is another example and a massive one, again, given The Rock it's hopefully we're going to see talent really beginning to use social media in a much better way to advance their stories and character. I just thought it was cool as shit, and it was so cool bringing reality into it, but in a way that allows you to create the fiction that you're building on. I just thought it was so cool, and that's not the first time anybody's ever done it. Well, I've done it. AEW's done it. WWE's done it. Everybody's done it, right? But to do it at this level and this effectively as a means to kind of fill up a couple that they're not gaping holes in the story and the setup to the story, but there was some dents there that needed to be addressed, and they addressed it, and they're doing it in social media, and it brought the story together. Yeah. Can you tell I'm excited just a little bit?
I knew you were excited when I saw you on Twitter and you said better than, less than, or different than. The Rock just nuked different than. I totally agree. It was, we could beat it up and be critical and nitpick it, but it felt real and it felt organic. And I loved that little things in there where he made sure to mention all the big wigs at Netflix. He made sure to mention the real life circumstance of him and Ari Emanuel. I mean, he's leaning into, here's all the reasons you should hate me, and I have all the power. And he was pretty out front about the fact that he doesn't just own his name. He owns all of his old catchphrases and all of the Rock, quote unquote, IP. I thought that was all really well done, and finding a way to include Seth Rollins, but stopping just short of mentioning Triple H. And we saw a little bit of that on Friday Night SmackDown as well. I think they're trying to add more and more depth, and I think it's pretty plain to me to see where this is headed. And I'm for it. It's going to be an exciting time to this road to WrestleMania. But before we talk about the SmackDown promo, one of the things that surprised me in a good way is when The Rock looked right at the camera and said something along the lines of that 21-minute promo from his house in Hawaii, I believe. Cody Rhodes, man to man, from the bottom of my heart, Fuck your story.
That was so, I mean, I was shocked. I was shocked for different reasons, but I can't go into all the reasons I was shocked. I just didn't think I would hear that out of Rock, given his stature in the industry. And continuing, still, the nature of the wrestling industry is still really sensitive when it comes to advertiser sponsors and that kind of thing. So even though it wasn't on television, to hear that delivery, it made it feel real and organic,
Yes.
and it wasn't a contrived, wrestling promo, which I've expounded on so often and frequently on this show for sure, how much I hate traditional wrestling promos and how dated they are. This brought that to 2024, this promo we're talking about. Could you do it on television? No. Sorry about that. Start using my mute button more often. I've actually read some notes where people saying, damn, clear your throat.
Well, you used to have the mute button down pat. And then a week or two ago, you did have more than normal. But I'm like, hey, man, he's on a roll. He's feeling it. I'm going to let it lay.
Yeah, yeah, it's embarrassing. And the reason I just don't do it more often is because my mute button is so much further away. I don't want to lean into it. Anyway, I can talk on and on and on about that promo. Everything felt real. It felt organic. We were talking about the Sting Darby Allin promo, the week before, and it was a great promo. I'm not cutting it down. I'm not hating on it, but I pointed out simply that one of the ways that promo could have been made better was to make it feel more organic and not put it in front of a setting that looked like a setting. Now, a set. I was told later that that's actually Sting's front door or Sting's house. Great. It still looked like a set because they lit it that way.
Yes.
Rock shooting that out in front of his gym or whatever it was, wherever it was, it made it look real. It made it look spontaneous. It made it look unproduced. And that's what that's why it felt so organic. That, among other things, his ability to deliver it and dropping some F-bombs in there and all that stuff made it feel real. And that's what this is about, right? Getting people engaged in your story by making it feel real. And contrast what we saw out of Darby Allin and Sting last week. Again, great promo. Delivery was excellent. The change in mood, breaking character, sucked me in. I could put it over for a long time. The thing I can't quite put over is the setting in which it took place. If that same promo would have taken place in a setting much like Rock's did, a natural environment, which is a little tougher because these guys are wearing makeup, I get it, but it can still be achieved. That promo would have been on the same level or had the same level of enthusiasm that this promo does for me. Okay, it was close, but Rock promo, I hope, sets a trend. I hope they do it more often, find new and creative ways to do it, all while making it feel organic. Otherwise, it's just like we see on TV and it won't be. Okay, I'm off that.